Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Wicked Bee of the West YouTube channel. My name is Stephanie Diana Eubank. I'm a doctoral candidate at Concordia University of Chicago, and I teach operational management, supply chain management at Stan State. So I want to talk about a really interesting topic that's been coming up with so many companies doing or trying to institute return to office, even though that's going spectacularly poorly. They are not understanding that the workforce has spoken and said that they want remote work. And that's the long and the short of it. So while they're dealing with that, you should know some ways to better be able to protect yourself with regards to remote work when your company is trying to require return to office. First and foremost, you want to double check online the WARN Act, WARN, WARN Act. Now, the WARN Act is a U.S. law that specifies if a company is planning to do layoffs, they have to report it to the federal government prior as a warning to employees so that they can start making other plans. Now, with return to office, this has become, since there are presently no federal laws that specify that with remote work that you can't call people back to the office. Uh, while this is going on, this allows a very interesting loophole that companies are utilizing to dodge the WARN Act, basically so that they can make more money at the cost of workers losing out on their insurances, such as unemployment insurance, which, quite frankly, to me is despicable. But while the government works on catching up to these trends and these issues, workers need to learn how to better protect themselves. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can go about um, basically fighting a return to office. For one, if you are a full-time W-2 employee or an independent contractor, double check your contract to work with that organization, what your clauses are with regards to remote work. Now, oftentimes, and I want to stress, go get a workers' rights lawyer. There are a lot of them popping up right now due to companies violating various workers' rights laws, especially since COVID. At any rate, again, get a lawyer. There may be a lot of bad jokes about lawyers, but they are helpful. One way that you can is have a lawyer look over your contract and see if there's any loopholes that specify that you, who was hired as a primarily remote worker, have any ability to fight and keep your position in the remote paradigm. But be warned, the company may start gunning for you, and it may just end up being um, that you're able to hold on to remote while you're looking for a company that better respects your time and your skills and you as an employee by having remote work and not bothering to try to scam you this way. Number two is to look at the fact that if you are a remote employee and you have a documented disability, such as me with my ADHD, I can petition specifying I have ADHD and remote work allows me to have better control of my surroundings to enhance my ability as an employee doing all of the different consulting and data analytics that I do as part of my career and part of my teaching. That is a great way to petition to have entirely remote work or to continue to keep having remote work. Another loophole that I can speak from experience in using, aside from my ADHD and my dyslexia, as a grounds for it, is oftentimes as a great way to deal with complications when you're pregnant as a woman, you can petition to your work as accommodation for, because in most states like California, being pregnant is considered a disability. When I was pregnant with my eldest, I petitioned to HR as an accommodation for the complications that I was having in my pregnancy to transition to remote work as an effort to basically lower the physical stresses on my body. My son was killing my gallbladder, and traveling to and from work in a car was making it unbearably painful and making it to where I was constantly having violent vomiting and other excruciating pains. Quite frankly, I will take childbirth with no meds again versus my gallbladder dying. For again, it was that level of painful. And I've had two children. But negotiating that remote work really helped, and honestly helped me show that I was productive and capable in remote work even while pregnant, at which comes with its own additional issues with it, and that I enjoyed it, and it honestly made me a better mom to be remote. And I remember when I had to go back to work after my son was born, after my maternity leave was over, which the maternity leave in the US, even here in California, that's a whole nother TED talk for another day. I found myself in the bathroom constantly crying, missing my son, even just to know that he was in the next room and was safe, because, especially here in California, in person work often requires people who can afford to travel to those areas for work. At the time, I was working predominantly in Marin County in San Francisco and was living in Santa Rosa, which is in the further North Bay. So it was about an hour to 2 hours one way, depending on traffic. And it was really brutal because daycare was in Santa Rosa, and which is Sonoma County, and that made it so that I had to be far away, and my child was in daycare, and where our daycare person was wonderful, and she did a stellar job, it still couldn't help but miss my baby. And I was really fortunate. One of my mentors was starting a program and needed someone to help do organizational development, and needed someone and was willing to give remote work. I jumped on it and I got to be with my baby all the time. And to this day, my boys are still some of my favorite assistants in my workplace. And I love being around my kids and knowing that something happens at school, I am 10 minutes away. And knowing that I don't have to commute as often, I don't have to travel as much, so that I can be a better mother, a better professor, a better student, a better wife, and it's transformative. Remote work really does help with the overall environment that employees have to be better for their work and for themselves, which is part of why I fight so hard to educate everybody about remote work and remote leadership. There is also a concept in petitioning for remote work that people often forget. You can go to leadership and to HR to negotiate remote work. Again, get yourself a lawyer and double check what your options are and see if the company would be amiable to negotiating remote work. Sometimes if you take a pay cut or do other negotiations, your company is willing to work with you, and they're just trying to develop a bargaining chip. But you have to accept that sometimes the answer is no. And that means that you need to be able to go and go find something else that at a company that will respect you and your time. So with return to work, especially right now, welcome to 2024. We're seeing companies are now finally getting the hint about how remote work is not only good for the company, but good for the employees, and starting to embrace it as part of the new norm. And that's all I have for you today. So remember, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. And also keep in mind that remote, it's here to stay. Happy 2024, everybody.